A last lap pass for the win, some wrecked race cars, and race car drivers complaining about the product of the racing. Today was a typical Talladega race. Brad Keselowski comes home with his 6th career win at Talladega, second most in NASCAR history, tying him with Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Jeff Gordon, 4 wins still behind Dale Sr. for the all-time wins record at Talladega. This was a typical Talladega race. Let's get to it.
I'm a racing fan. I will watch pigs race.
That's atrocious. That is disgusting. I never want to see that again.
I'm fed up, and you should probably turn this off.
Well, we got our 9th different winner in the 10th race of the season so far, as Brad Keselowski came home first and won the Geico 500 today at Talladega. Now, I don't know what Roger Penske has got figured out, or what that whole Team Penske organization has got figured out about Talladega, but between Brad Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, and Joey Logano, who we're going to talk about later, this whole organization just has Talladega figured out. Brad Keselowski has now won 6 races at Talladega. I know Blaney's got a couple. I think Joey's got a couple. This organization, Team Penske, circles Talladega on their calendar every year. They have just got this place absolutely covered. They have got it figured out. Everyone else is playing catch up when you go to Talladega. Those Team Penske cars are unbeatable right now. Overall, we had a great race at Talladega today. Now, normally, when I sit here and break down a Daytona or a Talladega race, I'm just going to have clip after clip of big wrecks, cars on fire, cars flipping, this and that. We didn't have a big one. I could not believe at Talladega with let's talk about how those cars were handling, by the way. There were absolutely 15 wrecks that didn't happen today. I mean, I'm yelling at the TV like, oh my God, oh. And every time they saved it and they didn't wreck. And I look stupid, obviously, but these cars were so out of shape and these drivers were making such aggressive moves. How we didn't end up with more cautions and more tore-up race cars is beyond me. But an amazing, amazing race. I don't know the last time that we had this competitive of a super speedway race. Every time you go to Daytona and Talladega, there's a bunch of lead changes. You know, it's competitive. There's a lot of single file racing. I feel like we didn't really get that boring, get up on the high side and run single file for 50 laps portion of the race. We didn't really get that today. And that's great, because that was the one problem I had with the Daytona 500 this year. Long stretch of that. But we did not get that today at Talladega. This was side-by-side, 3-wide racing. Work with your teammate. Leave your teammate. Do this, do that. Ultimately, Brad Keselowski proved why he is one of the best super speedway racers in the sport today. Now, we knew, as soon as the green flag fell, we knew Brad Keselowski had a fast car. Team Penske always brings fast cars to the racetrack. But the day started with more parity. Matt DiBenedetto, my guy, the Wood brothers, got it right here if you can see that. The Wood brothers go out and get that stage 1 win. And it was looking like Matt DiBenedetto was going to be one of the cars to beat. And he was. This guy, Matt DiBenedetto, I mean, he just keeps coming so close to his first career win. He's going to get it. This guy is absolutely knocking on the door. I mean, it cannot get much closer than today. Maybe a couple years ago at Bristol when he almost won that night race. But today, oh my gosh, that final restart. Everyone talks about the final, if he doesn't move up to the high side to pick up Blaney and he stays in front of Brad on the bottom, does he win the race? Probably. But when you go back and look on that last run to the checkered flag, you go back and look at the backstretch. Tyler Reddick gets an absolute crazy run, and instead of pushing Blaney, he goes to the high side, makes his own lane. I can't really fault him for that. He's trying to win his race. But if he pushes Blaney, Blaney uses that energy to push DiBenedetto, I don't think there's a way Matt DiBenedetto doesn't win this race. I mean, it would have had to have taken a hellacious run to beat that 21 car to the line had the runs worked out on the backstretch. Nonetheless, Matt DiBenedetto needs points if he is going to make the playoffs. Yes, a win would help. A win would be long overdue for him. A win would be the 100th career win for Wood Brothers Racing. That'd be a big milestone. But if that win does not come, you gotta have points. You gotta find a way to point your way into the playoffs. And by winning a stage today, that is a huge step in the right direction for Matt DiBenedetto. Now, another team that would love to win, but let's be honest, you're going to have to try to point your way in. It's not going to be easy, but you got to try. That would be Bubba Wallace in the number 23 car. They go out there and they win stage 2. Now, Bubba Wallace, he made some bad moves today because that 23 car might have been the fastest car on the racetrack today. That dude was absolutely shot out of a cannon. I don't know if this was the same car they used in the Daytona 500 or what. This car was bad fast. And we knew this team was going to have about 4 chances to win a race this year. Like, we have to be honest with ourselves here. Bubba Wallace is not a top-tier driver yet that's going to go out there and dominate a mile-and-a-half track. 2311 Racing is a brand new race team. They are not ready to go out there and compete with Gibbs, Hendrick, and Penske. It's not going to happen yet. But we knew the great equalizer is Daytona and Talladega. Today was probably Bubba Wallace's best shot to win a race that he's going to have all year. Now, they do go out there and they win stage 2, gets, points for that. Congratulations. But some of the moves that he made there at the end of the race, those last 20 laps, Bubba could not get out of his own way. I mean, it seemed like whenever a line was going, he would pull out. Or if he could not be patient, is basically what I'm trying to say. These runs have to materialize. When you only have about 4 or 5 cars in a lane and the top lane's got, 20, it's going to take a little bit. More cars are going to have to come down and get in line with you and help you get to the front. He was too impatient. He moved out of line, and he made some bad decisions that may have cost him the race today. Let's be real. This car was fast enough to win the race today. That's a great sign for 2311. But Bubba has got to be kicking himself after today. He had a great run. They knew he was there. But at the end of the day, there's a couple moves I think Bubba would like to have back. And maybe we're talking about a huge story and him getting his first win today. Now, I wanted to get to this. We knew when NASCAR made the change a couple years ago to have stage racing, where we were going to have guaranteed cautions and we were going to, give the top 10 points and this and that, the stage racing. We knew it was going to change the product on the racetrack. Now, I am somewhat of a traditionalist. You can see I got old cars behind me. I got the old logo on the shirt. I am somewhat of a traditionalist. But I understand you have to evolve and the sport has to change or you will get left behind. And with people's short attention spans these days, you cannot have a 400-lap race run with maybe 1 caution. That's just not a good product. So you have to have these stages. Now, it's a great opportunity to get points in the middle of a race, and I love it. But what I did not expect was this level of intensity that we got at the end of the stages today. At the end of stage 1, obviously, that was the big highlight. Joey Logano flips, gets on his roof, goes straight over Bubba Wallace's car. A wild sequence there. And I'm going to talk about Joey here in a couple minutes, actually. But at the end of stage 1, you had guys going for it. Joey ends up on his roof. At the end of stage 2, it's a mad dash, and Denny Hamlin ends up in the wall and takes out a couple Hendrick cars, or spins them out. I think only Bowman fell out of the race. But still, The racing that we saw at the ends of the stages, this today was unheard of, honestly. The intensity at the end of the stages today is probably the highest intensity I've seen since stage racing started. I cannot think of a race where, I mean, it was the last lap. It was the last lap of the race 3 times today. And that happened at the end of stage 1, stage 2, and then the end of the race. The way these guys were driving today, again, I'm going to go back to what I said in the opening. I have no idea how we didn't have more cautions and more tore-up race cars today. But when we did tear stuff up, it usually came at the end of a stage. I think it's good for the sport. I think what people used to say is you could watch the first 50 laps and the last 50 laps and not miss anything in between. That is all obviously not the case now with this stage racing. I think it's great for the sport. But today, the intensity we saw, if we can get that kind of intensity every week at the end of these stages, we will have it made, boys and girls. Now, as good as the stage racing was, and as good and as intense as the stage finishes were, you know I got to find something that we got to improve on. I'm a very positive person. I always like to stay positive, point out the good things. But there was a glaring bad part about today's Cup race. And it's all those damn commercials. Listen, Fox, NBC, we got to figure this out, okay? We absolutely have to figure this out. You watch a football game. You watch a basketball game, you watch a baseball game, you watch a hockey game, you watch a soccer game. How many times do they go to commercial during the game? And I mean while something is happening. I mean like the Patriots are lining up for 3rd and 2, but first, a word from our sponsors. No. You wait till a drive is over. You wait till there's a score, a punt, whatever. We have got to change this commercial policy with NASCAR. There is no reason, none whatsoever, that during live green flag racing, we're going to a commercial. That is an absolute joke. It does not happen in any other sport, and I don't think it should happen in NASCAR. I think it's disrespectful to the fans. I think you had Chad Ochocinco, wide receiver, used to play for the Bengals, tweeting about it. He was watching the NASCAR race, and he kept getting pissed off at Fox for going to commercial. We had so many commercials. There is no reason for a full-screen commercial when we have live green flag racing. There is no excuse for it. None. I don't want to hear it. I know NASCAR needs the money. They need the exposure. They need to sell those, those TV time slots, those commercials. Make all the money you can. But we have got to do the split screen, half commercial, half race while it's green flag racing. And then whenever there's a caution, an end of a stage, whatever, that whenever there's a pause in the action, then we can do a full screen commercial. But when you've got, especially at a track like Talladega, when literally calamity can just happen like that, and you don't see it coming, and now all of a sudden you're coming out of commercial and there's 15 wrecked cars on the TV screen, and you don't know what happened. That's a joke. We've got to figure this out. Fox, NBC, NASCAR, y'all got to sit down. We have got to get these split-screen commercials for green flag racing and full-screen commercials only for when it's under caution. Because going full screen and missing live green flag action during a NASCAR race is flat out unacceptable. And last but not least, let's talk about my favorite driver, Joey Logano. Boy, I don't even know where I really want to start with this. Here's a guy, when you look up privileged in the dictionary, you will see a picture of Joey Logano. When you look up stuck up, when you look up prick, when you look up any derogatory term really, Joey Logano is the first name you're going to see. This guy is an absolute cancer. Let's just keep it real, okay? This guy is the most spoiled, just privileged race car driver, maybe of all time. And that's saying something because Austin Dillon's a NASCAR driver. And he's Richard Childress's grandson. And he doesn't act as privileged, and he doesn't whine and bitch and complain about everything like Joey Logano does. Now, let me slow down, okay, before I go full nuclear on this guy. Joey Logano flipped at the end of stage 1, ended up on his roof and in front of the whole field, basically. Could have been a very ugly situation. Thankfully, he was all right. As much as I dislike him, you don't want to see him get hurt, obviously. He was okay, but he did not miss an opportunity to bitch and complain about it when he came out of the infield care center. He's talking to Jamie Little, and he's talking about how he's got a roll bar hitting him in the helmet, and how scary it is, and how he's one hit away from what Ryan Newman went through, and this and that. Ryan Newman almost died. Literally, I will never forget the feeling that I had in my stomach watching the end of that Daytona 500 and watching Ryan Newman not get out of his car, and then watching them put a tarp over the car. That's a dead giveaway, no pun intended there. I will never forget that feeling that I had. That feeling, I don't want to ever have to feel it again. I was too young to really remember, Earnhardt and 01, all that. But anyway, I know the feeling I had when Ryan Newman almost died. And, it sucks. We don't want to see that in NASCAR. But Ryan Newman had probably the scariest crash I have ever seen in my life in NASCAR. And I did not hear that man say one bad thing about NASCAR or the style of racing or this and that. He was thankful for all the protection, all the safety workers, the track, everybody. He was thankful. He didn't get out and start bitching and complaining like, oh, I didn't win the race. No, he didn't. He was very thankful. But here comes Joey Logano, little stuck-up Connecticut prick Joey Logano, gets out of the car and immediately takes a shot at NASCAR, super speedway racing, and basically the fans. Let's be real. You can ask 100 fans. The most entertaining races that there are on the schedule are the super speedway races between Daytona and Talladega. Joey Logano's comments about, we've got to change this style of racing, we're going to kill someone, this and that, I'm scared for my life, or something like, I'm happy to be alive, whatever it was, whatever garbage he spewed on national television. You are slapping the fans in the face saying that we shouldn't get these races now just because you're scared to get in your race car? Listen, NASCAR is a very dangerous sport. In my opinion, it's the most dangerous sport. You are driving a 3,400-pound machine, 200 miles an hour, and you got 39 other guys trying to do the same thing as you. It is a very, very dangerous sport. But you know what you're signing up for before you get into that race car. If you are not comfortable with the risks of racing, you should not race. A scared race car driver is useless. Absolutely useless. You cannot be scared. You have to live with no fear. You have to go out there, balls to the wall, and run that thing like you stole it for 188 laps or 500 miles today. Now, I will agree with Joey Logano. I do think it's those giant-ass spoilers, as Dale Jr. likes to call them, that are creating these big runs that the cars are getting and is causing, bigger wrecks. And I agree with him on that. I would like to see them shorten the spoiler by maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches, something like that. Minor. We got to slow the cars down a little bit. I agree with all of that. I don't think you need to run 205 to put on a good show. I'm fine watching them go 195, and they'll probably put on just as good of a show. I'm totally fine with that. But Joey Logano never misses an opportunity to rub the fans the wrong way and to bitch and complain about something when something doesn't go his way. What I heard from Joey Logano today is exactly why I can't stand that guy. I absolutely cannot stand Joey Logano. He is... I'm running out of words here. I'm running out of words to describe this guy. What he said after the race, talking about, I'm just happy to be alive, this type of racing has to stop, this and that. No, it doesn't. We can make minor changes, but I guarantee if Joey Logano had won the race or finished in the top 5 today, or even finished the race for that matter, I bet he wouldn't be bitching and complaining like he was today. He got scared, he got spooked, and instead of being thankful like Ryan Newman was, he decided to start bitching and complaining. You know what that tells me? This is a spoiled, privileged kid, just like we already knew. Look, I'm done ranting about this. This was a great race today. I don't want to let that little prick, ruin this. Great race today at Talladega. It always lives up to the expectation, I feel like. Next week, we got Kansas on Sunday. We're back to the 1.5 miles. After Bristol, after Martinsville, after Richmond, Talladega, we're back to the 1.5 miles. And now it comes the dog days, if you will. We do have some good races coming up, but that summer stretch is coming where it's tough. But we'll get through it. Kansas is next week. Brad Keselowski, shout out today, man. Tying Jeff Gordon and Dale Jr. for 6 wins at Talladega. That's when you're on a list with Dale Sr., Jeff Gordon, and Dale Jr., you've done something right. This was RJ's Pit Stop, commercial free, unlike the NASCAR race today. See y'all later.